y póngase duro, que ahora sí que vamos a gozar.
Hola mi gente, Alba aquí. Hi, Alba's here. This is going to be part 2 of my vlog of the Octofinal Group H nonfiction selections for the Booktube prize that I did at the beginning of this year, which my loving son helped me edit. Gracias, Carlos. Te amo. Yeah, he even taught me how to export from my Android to MacBook. Yeah, so we might be seeing more videos in the future. Let me explain the process here. These are the other 2 books that did not pass on to the next round of the Booktube prize in the nonfiction category, except that one of these books, Graceland at Last, I had put at number 3, right? It did not pass, but it was a number 3 for me. The other book that I will be discussing here in this vlog is the other book that did not pass, The River Amur. Yeah, and later on in the part 3 of the vlog, I will explain then my rankings. So yeah, look out for that part 3, which I hope to edit soon. Take care. Bye. Enjoy.
So I've been gone for a couple of days, but I took my Kindle to start reading The Amur River by Colin Thubron, who is a travel writer and out of Europe, I think he's British, who has taken upon himself to journey on the river Amur, which is the longest boundary between Russia and China. And on this journey, he catalogs as well as his adventures and misadventures and the things that happened to him. For example, already fracturing a couple of ribs and an ankle during the first chapters. I'm already going to start on chapter 5. But since I was away, and I always like to take notes by hand, I'm backtracking to be able to take those notes. And one of the most interesting things that happened to him after starting the trip and meeting all sorts of different kinds of people, including Buddhist monks. He arrives at the town of Sritex, which used to be a hub of activity when there were steamboats and railways. The railroad system at one point in 1916, he says, decided to bypass the village, and since then it's been besieged by poverty. But he talks about the steamboat trips that certain people of renown made from that town and on the river, including a very, very interesting story about Anton Chekhov, who took that trip on a steamboat and how he loved the river. So, what I'm missing, right? Um, I'm a product of my age, and I keep thinking this. I would love to see pictures. Haven't seen pictures. The only pictures I can make are from his very lovely descriptive language, I have to admit. But I'm used to seeing pictures. So what I've just done is gone to Google and searched the village and the river and seen what, you know, the maps, where exactly is that region located. And that certainly has helped me out. But, you know, I really wish I could watch a documentary of this whole trip. That would have been great. Okay, see you later. So I hope there's no audio problem with these headphones on. I will proceed. I'm 75% in with the River of Amur. Very interesting anecdotes, uh, which are the ones that I prefer. When he's having conversations with people on both sides of the border, right? Russians and Chinese, and how what they feel towards each other and how they interact. Always fascinating. And then he intersperses those anecdotes uh, with the history of the regions that he's passing through. I still, wish that there were pictures, at least photographs of what he's talking about. I've just read about some very interesting petroglyphs that he's found at the extreme end of the Russian, where the Amur ends, right, towards the Pacific. And there's no pictures of what he's describing. So I go down the rabbit hole and I look for it, which takes time from the reading. I've been reading since 9:30 this morning. It is now lunchtime. I'm going to take a break because my eyes are tired. And yeah, I would have liked pictures. That's all. Bye. So I just finished The Amur River by Colin Thubron. Yeah. It turns out that I noticed towards the end, as he is listening to an part native woman of a tribe called Ulchi, that he never mentions her name. This is a woman who is determined to conserve her culture, her native culture, that she feels has been uh, damaged uh, by the government during the years, and she's trying to maintain it alive. But he never mentions her name, and then that's when I realized that there are many women that he has mentioned that do not have names. For example, when he is arrested at the beginning, he nicknames uh, one of the officers there during the whole ordeal, calls her Medusa. That's her name, Medusa. Uh, this Uchi woman, he refers to her every once in a while as a shamaness. Uh, Not to say that that he doesn't mention women's names every once in a while. For example, here in the last part, uh, there's a couple uh, that he visits, Trofim, and his wife's name is Galina, and she stands out because she wants to leave. She's so uh, isolated in this town in northeastern Siberia, at the mouth practically of the Amur River, where people have been leaving the villages, especially the young people. There are no jobs, no industries. Uh, Flooding has occurred, and she's desperate to leave. She has a name. Her name is Galina. But I've been noticing that other women don't get names. even his wife doesn't have a name. Another thing I noticed is that he finally mentions his age. I've noticed that, he's made previous trips to Russia, to the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union, and he refers to the trips that he made 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. And towards the end is where he mentions that he hasn't considered the way his guides, both in Russia and in China, have looked at him. And he belatedly realizes that perhaps their conduct and their behavior towards him is because they reverence his age, right? Not just the white hair. It's the fact that this man is about 80 years old. And they probably admire him too, the self-confidence of traveling on his own down the Amur River, so many thousands of miles, by himself, mostly. So, at one point he's admiring his last guide. His name is Alexander. Alexander has been his guide during the last 100 miles of his trip, and the author is admiring his self-confidence and the way he speaks to the police, the FSB, or the previously the KGB, who find Alexander's phone number, call him on the last day of the author's trip to interrogate Alexander as to what this English guy is doing and what questions is he asking and why is he walking around. And the author admires Alexander's attitude of defiance. It's basically defiance. And so he says that his confidence seems to make anything possible. Yet I fear for him a little, as I had for dissidents in Brezhnev's time, whose integrity was hazardously their own. And I think when I despair of Russia, I will remember him. And I wonder, when the author despairs of England, who will he remember? I think we all despair of our countries and what is happening in them. So I finished. I don't usually do travel books. We'll see where this falls within the ranking during this quarterfinals, octofinals. Okay, that's it for now. On to the last book. Bye.
I started Graceland at Last, which is a series of essays based on columns that Margaret Renkl wrote for the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, mostly around the time that President number 45 was elected, as a way of giving voice to those people in the South who were more on the leftist side of the spectrum. The beginning of the book is divided into themes. It's not columns as they appeared chronologically in the newspaper. They're uh, they're organized by themes, and the first theme would attract. Sorry. The first theme would attract the naturalists in Booktube because they're dedicated to the beauty of the South. She lives in Tennessee, but is originally from Alabama, so she will talk. Uh, she will describe the natural beauty of the South of the United States with a lot of love. She really, really loves the South. And then goes on to different themes. For example, right now she's speaking about capital punishment. In this specific essay, she's addressing capital punishment and how it's been the first time in 10 years since someone has been executed in Tennessee. But before that, she was addressing, for example, immigration. Oh, the evangelical right. There were a whole series of articles about that. And then one that touched me very much because I'm prejudiced towards Jimmy Carter, and how she finally got to attend one of his Sunday school lessons in Georgia. And what a brilliant Sunday school teacher President Carter is, and his teaching style. Yeah, that brought tears to my eyes. So, yeah, I'm almost halfway through this book. I will really, really attempt to finish it today. And yeah, this was one of her, I think one of her objectives is to extend hope to people after that election, and how, give hope to people who are lamenting the turn that things have taken, the polarization that is, so evident in the United States right now. So that's where we are. Halfway through, almost finished. Yay!
I've read over 30 essays in Graceland at Last by Margaret Renkl, covering all sorts of different kinds of topics, from social justice to politics to the American South, the South in the United States, and racism, environmentalism, naturalism. But I just read my favorite one, which is called Death of a Cat. It's my favorite essay of all, in which she flat out states, based on the opinion of an expert in natural science, from Roland Case. Roland Case, zoologist at North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, says house cats have a 2 to 10 times larger impact on wildlife than wild predators. And I go, uh-oh, our booktubers who love cats are not going to have a good time if this book goes forward in each round. So I don't know. Have no fears, though. It ends well. This has been my favorite essay of all. Yeah, even though I cried with the Jimmy Carter, yeah, there have been other very striking and memorable essays, uh, but this one was my favorite. The Death of a Cat, Lunchtime. Okay, I've done this for the third time. I've just finished Graceland at Last by Margaret Renkl, who is an opinion writer for the New York Times. The subtitle is Notes on Hope and Heartache from the American South. I did not expect to be moved by this collection of essays as much as I was, frankly, because as a cantankerous Puerto Rican grandma, I took issue with that subtitle because when you speak to me about American South, I immediately think of Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, etc., etc. Of course, the author is referring to the southern part of the United States, which she considers her homeland and of which she speaks uh, with such tenderness and love, frankly. I did not expect to cry as much as I did and in as many different places as I did. For example, when she describes uh, the most recent Thanksgiving meals at which family members are absent and the sense of grief and loss. Also, when she speaks of tornadoes that went through Tennessee uh, most recently and the devastation that they caused. Another part that moved me to tears was when she talked about the state universities and how grateful she was uh, for the state universities in her life, in her husband's life, and in her son's lives. And that spoke to me very much because of my alma mater, Puerto Rico. And she describes exactly what is happening in Puerto Rico. I had no idea that in the United States, uh, state legislatures also balance their budgets on the back of their state universities, as they do here, and also hike the tuition for people who most need their state universities to have moderate prices and moderate tuitions. Uh, she finally gets to Graceland, and that was uh, that was cute. That was cute. Give me a chuckle. Uh, but the last part, the acknowledgments, her final words is what moved me very much also. That sense of home that she transmits uh, and how deeply she loves the South. It's very moving. Uh, I did a hybrid reading of this book along with the audiobook. It was narrated by Joyce Bean, who did a fantastic job. So, yeah, I have my rankings already. Uh, this book definitely went up in that ranking unexpectedly for me, and I will submit those rankings in a few minutes to Robert. And I thank you for accompanying me on this documentation of my reactions to the reading. Uh, I won't be putting this up until very much later in the Booktube Prize, maybe even in October, because I don't want to influence anybody and anybody's any other judges' opinions about the books. But I was my criteria this time is going to be entirely based on how much I was moved by the books that I select, emotionally moved. Okay, so take care. Adios.